My name is Wanda Kessler. I'm 35 years old. And this is the story of how my family humiliated me, voted me out like a contestant on a game show, and how I made them regret ever treating me like an outsider. Started on Thanksgiving. The house smelled like roasted garlic and turkey drippings, just like it had every year since I was a kid. My parents' home in Portland had that same earthy brown tablecloth they always used for big holidays. Aunt June brought her usual burnt pumpkin pie. My cousin Ricky was cracking the same tired jokes he always did. And my sister Veronica floated around the dining room like she was the hostess of some glamorous event, instead of a family dinner. I was carving mashed potatoes into tiny pieces for my niece, Emma, trying not to think too hard about how no one had asked how my business was going. Not that they ever did. I owned a tech consultancy firm, nothing sexy, nothing glamorous. And yet I paid half of their bills without them knowing. I did it quietly, out of duty. Out of love, I thought. I had just handed Emma her plate when Veronica stood up and tapped her wine glass with a smug smile that cut through the room like a scalpel. "Before we carve the turkey, I have something to say," she announced. Her red lips curled upward, her tone rehearsed and hollow. Her curls were perfect. Her dress was too fancy for dinner. I immediately knew whatever came next wouldn't be good. Everyone froze. My mom put her wine glass down, and my dad leaned forward like he was waiting for the punchline of a joke he was already in on. Veronica took a breath and said, "We took a vote last week, as a family, and we've decided." Her eyes locked on me. "Wanda, you are no longer part of this family." At first I thought I misheard her. Then Ricky raised his glass with a crooked grin. My Aunt June let out a low whistle like she'd just witnessed a magic trick. My mother burst out laughing like someone had just told her a clever joke. And the worst part, they applauded. Not all of them, but enough. Real actual applause. It echoed in my ears like the end of a nightmare. My heart didn't break, it hardened. My stomach twisted, not from sadness, but from a fury I hadn't allowed myself to feel in years. I looked at my dad. He didn't even glance at me, just shook his head gently and muttered, "Maybe this is for the best." My vision blurred, but not from tears. From focus. I didn't scream. I didn't ask why. Already knew. I stood slowly. "You actually planned this." Veronica tilted her head. "You've always acted like you're better than the rest of us. Always so distant. So cold." My mom chimed in with a smirk. Finally, someone had the guts to say it. I didn't flinch. I didn't argue. Instead, I bent down, reached into my bag, and pulled out a thick folder. I placed it squarely in the center of the table. Veronica frowned. "What's that?" I looked her straight in the eye. "Why don't you take a look?" The moment she opened the first page, her face lost all color. Her perfect smile shattered like porcelain. Her fingers trembled as she flipped to the second page. Then the third. And then she shrieked. Loud, sharp, and high-pitched. Emma started crying, startled. My brother-in-law, Josh, snatched the folder from her and began flipping through it. Is this real?" he asked, voice strained. He nodded. "Every number. Every receipt. Every lie." Josh read silently, then looked at Veronica, stunned. "You told me you borrowed that money from a friend." She said nothing. The pages fell from her lap to the floor like snow. Screenshots of bank transfers from my personal account into hers. Texts she'd sent me begging for help when Josh supposedly lost his job. There were hotel receipts under the name Melissa Gray, her fake name, for weekend getaways she'd told Josh were work retreats. I turned to my father and slid a second set of papers to him. "These are the hospital bills I covered when you slipped down the stairs last year. Itemized. Receipts included." He didn't even look at them. Just stared at his empty glass of water, unmoving. Then to my mom I handed another document. $2,300. Wired directly to your account last spring. You told me your credit card was hacked. Her eyes darted. "Wanda, why are you bringing this up now? That was family. That money was given out of love. Love doesn't mock me. Or vote me out of the family dinner." I pulled out my phone and hit play on a voice recording. Veronica's voice echoed loud and clear from the speaker. She always acts like she's better than us. Cut her off and watch her fall. No one would miss her. Followed by my mother's laughter. Veronica gasped. You were spying on me. No, I said calm. You but dialed our cousin Laura while gossiping. She sent it to me. Josh flipped to the last page. A summary of everything I'd given to each person around the table over the last 5 years. $81,000, I said softly. No reimbursements. Not even a thank you. Josh looked pale. He turned to Veronica, voice low. Melissa Gray. Hotel. That's not a friend, is it? I didn't wait for her to answer. I pulled out a printed screenshot of an Instagram post. A selfie Veronica took in a white robe, holding a champagne glass on the hotel balcony. I laid it gently on the table. Same room. Same date. No one spoke. I reached into my coat pocket, pulled out another document, and slid it toward Josh. This is the message she sent her friend Melissa. Josh won't find out. He's too distracted with the store. You're the one I really want next to me. The silence broke. Josh stood up and knocked his chair backward. My mother covered her mouth. My dad still didn't move. Veronica's face crumbled. You were just waiting to do this. You planned this. You want to destroy us. No, I said. But I had to protect myself. Because people who truly love you don't hold a vote to decide whether you still belong. Then I picked up my coat, walked to the door, and turned back only once. I didn't ruin Thanksgiving. I just stopped pretending. And I left. But that was just the beginning. I didn't drive home right away. I sat in my car in the driveway with my hands still on the steering wheel, staring at the same porch I used to roller skate on as a kid. I remembered the time I fell and scraped my knees, how Dad scooped me up and carried me inside like I was the most precious thing in the world. That memory felt so foreign now, like it belonged to a different family entirely. The porch light flickered overhead, catching the steam rising from the leftover turkey someone had left by the front window. Inside I could see them all standing around the table, some in shock, some arguing. And Veronica, she was sobbing now. Not because she regretted what she did, but because the mask had finally slipped, and she couldn't shove it back on. I turned the ignition and drove away, the cold wind slapping my face through the tiny crack in the window. I didn't cry. Not then. There was no grief left. Only silence. The next morning I woke up to 12 missed calls and a string of texts. The first one was from my mom. You didn't have to do that at dinner. That wasn't the place. We were all just trying to find peace. Then from Ricky. Wanda, I had no idea it was that serious. Thought it was just a joke. Sorry if I hurt you. Then Veronica. You think you're so clever, don't you? You blindsided me and made a scene. You've always been jealous. Jealous. I'd wired her money when she cried on the phone about foreclosure. I'd taken Emma to school when she said she was too sick, which I now suspect was code for sleeping off another weekend trip. I was the one who sent flowers to their house when she and Josh had a fight I later realized started when he found a hotel receipt she couldn't explain. And now I was jealous. Blocked her. Later that afternoon, a call came from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something in my gut told me I should. Hi, Wanda. A deep voice said, tentative but direct. This is Benjamin, Josh's attorney. He asked me to let you know that he'll be filing for divorce. He's listed you as a primary witness due to the financial and personal documentation you provided. I didn't speak at first. My throat went dry. He also said to thank you, Benjamin continued. He had suspicions for years but no proof. You gave him clarity. I thanked him and hung up. Then I sat in the middle of my apartment, the same one I used to decorate with hand-me-downs and dried flower bouquets I bought for myself when no one else did. I looked around and realized something strange. I wasn't sad. I was free. That weekend I packed away every framed family photo I still had, the ones where I was always off to the side, never the center. Always holding someone's child, always behind the camera, always the helper. I put them in a box labeled Archive, and shoved it into the back of my closet. By Monday, more messages rolled in. From Luke, my cousin. I didn't know about the money. No one told me. But I'm sorry I clapped. Got caught up. Hey, our cousin Jason just lost his job. Any chance you can help him cover rent for a few months? Just until he gets back on his feet. I stared at the screen, unmoved. Not angry. Just tired. They didn't even realize what they were doing. Or maybe they did. Either way, it didn't matter anymore. They weren't reaching out because they missed me. They were reaching out because I had always been there to clean up the mess. I didn't reply. That night, I opened a blank document on my laptop. I titled it Final Decisions, and began typing out the terms of separation I should have made years ago. I contacted my lawyer and revoked every power of attorney document I had filed with my parents. I had once listed myself as their medical contact, their emergency call, even the person who could approve major procedures if they weren't able. All that ended that week. I removed myself from co-signer roles, the ones I was never asked about but signed out of guilt. The ones that tied my name and credit to people who only saw me as reliable, not loved. Then I did something that felt like pulling a knife out of my own chest. I closed the trust fund I had created for Emma. It was $12,000, something I'd built slowly, monthly, over 4 years. Veronica never knew. I was going to tell Emma on her 16th birthday. I didn't cash it out. I just reassigned it to a non-profit that provided scholarships for girls in foster care. Girls who had no one. Girls like me, except I used to pretend I wasn't. I lit a candle that night. Not out of sadness. Out of ritual. Out of respect for the person I used to be. The woman who thought love was proven by how much she could give. Then I poured a glass of wine and didn't toast to anything. The next morning there was a knock at my door. It was Eva. Eva Carter, my college roommate. The one who used to call me Wonder Wanda when I pulled off an all-nighter and still made it to class with notes for everyone else. The one I lost touch with when I got swallowed into the black hole of family obligations and 2 a.m. phone calls from people who couldn't remember my birthday but remembered my bank routing number. She stood there with her short curls and denim jacket, smiling nervously. "I read your article," she said. "The one about financial abuse in families. I didn't even know you went through all that." I laughed, a little stunned. I wasn't sure anyone would read it. It went viral. "Wanda. It's brilliant." We hugged. And it didn't feel forced. It didn't feel like I owed her something. Felt real. That day, over coffee and pastry, she said something I'll never forget. "You're still generous. But now you know who deserves that generosity." That night, I added her name to my emergency contact form. No one else. Just Eva. He updated my will. And then I did something radical. I applied for a new job. One that paid half my salary but came with peace. A non-profit focused on financial education for women in transition. Women who'd lost homes, safety, confidence. Women like me. I got the job 2 weeks later. My first day, I didn't wear heels or carry a leather briefcase. I wore jeans, a soft sweater, and carried a notebook. And I smiled, really smiled, for the first time in years. This was the beginning of my return. Not to them, but to myself. The mornings in the new city felt different. Softer. As though the sun itself had made peace with me. I moved out of Portland 2 weeks after Thanksgiving. I didn't tell anyone. No dramatic farewell. No group text. No passive-aggressive posts about fresh starts. I just left. Packed what mattered, which turned out to be very little, and found a quiet apartment near a lakeside town in Washington. Not a mansion, not a penthouse. Just a modest third-floor walk-up with wide windows and the smell of cedar in the hallway. For the first time in over a decade, I wasn't listening for the next emergency. The next guilt-laced call. The next, just this once, that somehow became again and again. I got a library card. Bought a cast-iron skillet. Started baking. Discovered I loved lemon poppy seed muffins. Jogged in the mornings when the air was still cold enough to sting my cheeks. I read books slowly. I lit candles because I liked the scent, Not because I needed to mask the stress sweat that clung to me every time my phone buzzed with another family demand. The silence in my life wasn't empty anymore. It was sacred. And yet, silence is never permanent. 2 days after Christmas, a letter arrived. No return address. But I recognized the handwriting immediately. My mother's. Neat, looping cursive, the kind she learned in Catholic school. 3 pages. Blue ink. 3 distinct tones. Page 1. Sweet apologies. We never meant to hurt you. The dinner got out of hand. Everyone was under pressure. Please don't let one night erase a lifetime. Page 2. Subtle guilt. Your father's back is getting worse. Veronica is devastated. Emma doesn't understand why you disappeared. Page 3. The pitch. If you help us cover the mortgage, we'll transfer the deed to your name. That way, you'll feel secure your money isn't going to waste. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I folded the letter carefully and dropped it in the trash. They didn't want me back. They wanted the version of me that used to exist. The one who said yes before asking questions. The one who believed that love meant sacrifice, even if it hurt. That woman was gone. A week into the new year, I got another envelope. This one was from my father. The handwriting had changed. More slanted, abrupt. Straight to the point. We're refinancing the house. The bank needs a cosigner. If you agree, it won't cost you anything, just your signature. Don't let pride ruin what's left of this family. There was no greeting. No love, Dad. Just demands dressed as logic. I placed his letter next to my mother's in a tin box I now kept under the bed. Not to remember, but to remind myself never to return. On Valentine's Day, I received a package. No return name again, but I knew. Inside, a candle. My favorite scent. The one I used to burn every night in my old apartment when the noise of obligation got too loud. Attached was a note in childish handwriting. Aunt Wanda, I miss the smell of your room. Do you still use candles? I know you're mad at Mommy and Grandma, but I still want your pancakes. That one, that tore a little. 'Cause I did love that child. She was the only person in that family who never asked for anything but my time, my silliness, my hugs, and my pancakes with chocolate chips. I held the card in my hand for almost an hour. But then I remembered how love from children can become a leash when used by adults who never earned it. I couldn't soften for Emma without risking everything I had rebuilt. I sealed the candle back in its box and mailed it to the return address with a short note. I still use candles. But I don't live in the dark anymore. In March, I got another call from an unknown number while watering basil on my small balcony. I let it ring. And for the first time I didn't feel guilt. Felt peace. That afternoon I went for a walk around Cedar Lake. The breeze was crisp, and the light on the water looked like melted silver. Children played at the edge of the trail, and for once, their laughter didn't make me ache for what I'd lost. It reminded me of what I was protecting. I sat on my usual bench near the boathouse, where a woman with silver hair often knitted quietly in the afternoons. She looked up at me that day and said, "You come here often." Smiled. "Looks like I'm learning how to breathe again." She nodded. "Then keep that air. Don't let anyone steal it back." I didn't need her to know my story. She saw it on my face. That week, I got an email from a nonprofit I'd donated to anonymously. Women rebuilding their lives after financial abuse. They asked if I'd consider speaking at a small seminar. Not as an expert but as a survivor. I hesitated. But I said yes. The seminar was held in a local library. No lights, no stage. Just folding chairs and a circle of women who looked like they'd all been the strong one for too long. I told them everything. About the family votes. The folder. The betrayal. The silence. The walk away. And when I finished, a woman with tear-streaked cheeks stood up and said, "I thought I was the only one. Thank you for saying what I never could." Hugged her. And for the first time I felt what it meant to give. Without being taken from. That night, I walked home past the tiny corner bakery where the owner now knew my name. I bought a slice of cinnamon apple pie. Sat by my window. Lit a candle. the scent I'd always loved. And I breathed, deeply, freely, because the most powerful thing I ever did was leave. The letter arrived on a gray April afternoon. Rain tapped at the windows like a metronome, steady and unrelenting. I had just returned from the nonprofit, where I'd spent the morning reviewing budgets with a woman trying to rebuild her life after her husband drained their accounts. I sat on my sofa, warm tea in hand, ready to unwind, when I saw the envelope waiting in my mailbox. No return name again. But the handwriting was unmistakable. My mother. This one was only 2 pages. Page 1 was strange. A mix of small talk and self-pity. The house is quiet now. Your father barely speaks. Veronica hardly leaves her room. Easter passed and no one even brought out the decorations. It doesn't feel like home without you. Page 2, though, got straight to the real purpose. The bank is pushing forward with foreclosure. I know you're angry. But please, if you help us just this once, I'll make sure we sign everything over to you. I'm begging, Wanda. Not for me, for Emma. She needs stability. That name again. Emma. They always used her name when they wanted to wrap manipulation in innocence. Like her love for me could be borrowed as collateral for their failures. I folded the letter, placed it in the tin box with the others, and returned to my tea. I wasn't cold. I was finished. By mid-April, Luke messaged again. No apology this time. Just a list of favors. Hey Wanda. I heard you've got a good setup now. Not sure if you still talk to Joel, but Veronica's been struggling. Her lease is up soon, and she and Emma might be homeless. Do you know anyone renting a cheap 2-bedroom? I didn't reply. Veronica had plenty of options. Friends she lied to, people she bragged to. She could turn to them now. I was no longer on her emergency contact list, emotionally or otherwise. In May, I sat on the floor of my apartment sorting through old boxes, photos, receipts, a few broken Christmas ornaments I had packed away out of habit, not desire. And then I found it. A photo of me and Emma on a hill near Mount Tabor, our hair wild in the wind, her grin wide and unfiltered. She was maybe 5. We'd gone hiking that day because Veronica said she needed space. She always needed space. I had driven Emma out myself, packed her snacks, tied her laces, and promised her we'd race back down the hill. We did. She won. I looked at that photo for a long time. Then I gently placed it into a wooden box and locked it. Not to forget, but to protect it from becoming another manipulation. I lit a candle that night. The scent, lavender and sandalwood, filled the room like a soft exhale. I didn't feel lonely, felt whole. But the next day the silence broke again. This time it was my father. Voicemail. I hadn't saved his number, but I knew that raspy voice, always sharp like sandpaper. Wanda. Enough is enough. Your mother's not sleeping. Veronica's losing it. You made your point. You're acting like a stranger over one night. One mistake. Don't let pride burn every bridge. Blood is blood. I listened to it twice. One mistake. As if years of draining me financially, emotionally, spiritually. As if voting me out of the family like I was an inconvenience was just a hiccup. A little too much wine. A misunderstood joke. They still didn't get it. I didn't walk away over a mistake. I walked away because it was the first time they were honest about how little they valued me, and I believed them. A week later a box arrived. No return address. Just my name handwritten in blue marker. Inside, a candle. The same scent as before. And a card. Emma's handwriting. I miss the smell of your house. I miss pancakes. I love you, Aunt Wanda. I held the note to my chest and stared out the window for a long time. I loved her. I truly did. But love isn't a leash. And it shouldn't come at the cost of your soul. I gently packed the candle back into the box, wrote a note, and mailed it to the old Portland address. I still use candles. But I don't live in the dark anymore. In June I received another email. This time from a local mental health organization. They had read my seminar transcript online and wanted me to speak at their women's resilience retreat. Not as a victim, As someone who survived, rebuilt, and learned to say no. Accepted. At the retreat, I stood in front of 50 women. Different ages. Different lives. But the same look in their eyes. The one I had stared at in the mirror so many times. Exhausted. Afraid. I told them about the vote. The silence. The folder. The freedom. I told them the scariest part wasn't walking away. It was deciding I was worth the walk. After the session, a young woman with freckles and a quivering voice approached me. She whispered, "Your story saved me from going back. Thank you." And I realized, for the first time in my life, that I was being seen. Not used. Not needed. That night, I walked home past the little flower shop that had started keeping fresh tulips just because I bought them so often. The shopkeeper waved at me and called me by name. I smiled and waved back. I wasn't building a new life anymore. I was living it. The old Wanda. She wasn't dead. She was finally free. By July, the air in the lakeside town had turned warmer. Mornings came with dew on the window panes, and evenings carried a sweetness I'd almost forgotten, the kind that tastes like freedom. I started waking up before my alarm, not because of anxiety, but because I was finally excited for the day ahead. My life had fallen into a rhythm. Jogging, volunteering, reading, learning to sleep in silence, without waiting for the ding of a late-night text asking for help, or the panic of a call that wasn't mine to answer. I still kept the tin box under my bed, the one filled with letters and voicemails and memories that had once tried to define me. I didn't open it often, but knowing it was there reminded me of the most powerful truth I had ever learned. I could leave and still survive. I could say no and still be worthy of love. Then, in mid-July, another message arrived. A handwritten envelope, this time with a return address. My sister Veronica. Inside was a single sheet of paper. The handwriting was erratic, rushed, not her usual elegant script. It looked like she had scribbled it in desperation. Wanda, I know you think I don't deserve anything from you. And maybe you're right. But Emma misses you. She cries when she sees pancakes. Josh is gone. The apartment's gone. We're staying with Mom and Dad again, and it's hell. I'm not asking for money. I'm just asking, can you call her? Please. I sat with that letter for hours. She was the only one who hadn't betrayed me. But she was also the one they used as bait, every time they wanted to get under my skin. Could I call her? Should I? That was harder. Because love for a child could become a trap, a leash pulled by adults who had no intention of letting me go fully. That night I wrote Veronica back. It was the first time I had written to anyone in that family since Thanksgiving. Veronica, I hope you find the help you truly need. I will always love Emma. But I will not be your bridge to stability anymore. I wish you healing, not access. I sealed the envelope and mailed it before I could second-guess myself. And then I cried. Not because I regretted it, but because it took that much strength just to protect the peace I had worked so hard to build. 2 days later, I received an email from Joel. I hadn't heard from him since January, after the divorce was finalized. His message was short. Hey Wanda, I just wanted to thank you again. You didn't just give me evidence. You gave me my clarity. I've started therapy. I'm focusing on Emma. I hope someday she knows the truth. And I hope you're doing okay. I replied simply. Joel, I'm not just okay. I'm free. By August, I started leading financial literacy workshops for women who had fled emotionally abusive homes. We didn't just talk about savings accounts and credit repair. We talked about survival, boundaries, how sometimes the most expensive cost in life is staying too long where you're not valued. At one of those sessions, a woman named Lucia, mid-50s, soft-spoken, pulled me aside and whispered, I'm raising my sister's kids. She abandoned them 5 years ago, but now she's back and wants access to the bank account I set up for them. I didn't want to say no. But after today, I think I can. Smiled. Not because I was proud of her, but because I understood her. Sometimes, I said, saying no is the only way to say yes to yourself. She nodded and held my hand. No tears. Just gratitude. That night, I sat on my balcony watching the sky blush with sunset. I thought about the Thanksgiving table. About how they had clapped when they voted me out. About how my mother had laughed like it was a joke. And I realized I was grateful for that applause. Because it told me everything I needed to know. That vote, that humiliation had freed me. In a way it was a gift. Not wrapped in kindness. But still a gift. By early September, the wind returned, cooler this time. I bought a soft wool coat and started walking longer trails near the lake. The leaves were beginning to change. And so was I. One evening I ran into Eva again. We hadn't talked in a few weeks, both busy with our own paths. We shared a meal at our favorite cafe. As we walked out, she asked, "Do you ever think about going back? Not to live, just to visit." I shook my head. "I don't miss them," I said. "I miss who I used to be before I thought I had to earn love." He paused. "And who are you now?" Smiled. "Someone who doesn't beg to belong." When I got home, I lit a candle. The same scent as always. I wasn't lonely. I was whole. And as the wind tapped gently at the window, I whispered to no one, "Thank you for clapping that night. Because now I know. I don't need a seat at a table that punishes me for standing up." October rolled in with the kind of chill that carries memory. The streets in my new town glowed amber with fallen leaves, and the coffee shop on 3rd Street started putting cinnamon in everything. I found comfort in the small things, the way the barista remembered my name, the local grocer who set aside the last ripe pomegranates for me each Friday, and the smell of wood smoke in the evenings that reminded me I had survived last winter. A different winter. Colder one. A lonelier one. But not anymore. By then, I'd been living in Washington for nearly a year. Nearly a year of no midnight emergencies, no surprise bank transfers, no shame texts followed by GoFundMe links disguised as family updates. I was lighter. But peace always has a way of being tested. On the 2nd Sunday of October, as I sat curled up with a blanket and a book, I got a notification on my phone. A name I hadn't seen in months. Luke. "Wanda. I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I figured you should know. Mom's in the hospital. She had a fall. Minor fracture. She's asking for you. Keeps saying she wants to make things right." I stared at the screen for a long time. My tea had gone cold by the time I set the phone down. I didn't reply. Not because I didn't care. But because I had learned. Not every crisis is mine to solve. That night I found myself pulling out the tin box. The letters. The candle from Emma. The scribbled apologies. The requests dressed up as guilt. I flipped through each one slowly, as if confirming that I wasn't imagining it all. That they had indeed done what they did. That I had every reason to walk. And yet, missed her. Not my mother as she was now, but as she had once been. Or maybe as I had once believed she could be. Closed the lid. Slowly. Gently. And went to sleep without replying to Luke. 3 days later, a voicemail appeared from an unknown number. This time the voice that spoke wasn't angry. It was tired. Trained. Worn. My mother. "Wanda. I know you don't want to hear this. But I'm scared. And I don't know who else to call. You were always the one who knew what to do. Always the one who held it together. Please. If nothing else, let me just say I'm sorry. For everything." She didn't ask for money. She didn't ask for help. Just to be heard. I didn't erase it. But I didn't respond either. That week, during our women's circle at the nonprofit, I shared a truth I hadn't said out loud before. There's a part of me that still wants to go back. Not to stay. Just to be seen. Just to be held once, without being drained. The group was silent. Then Lucia, the woman who'd once raised her sister's children, said something I'll never forget. "Going back for love is noble. Going back for closure is a trap." I nodded, tears brimming. That was exactly it. I didn't want reconciliation. I wanted recognition. But I'd spent too many years mistaking proximity for love, silence for peace, and guilt for apology. 2 days later I sent a letter. Not to Veronica. Not to Luke. Emma. A simple card, one that said nothing but, I hope you're okay. I miss you too. And I hope one day you know none of this was ever your fault. I signed it with just my name. I didn't send a return address. If she wanted to find me one day, she could. But I wouldn't let them use her as a chain anymore. By Halloween, the days had shortened. I carved a pumpkin for my porch, something I hadn't done since I was a child, and gave out candy to the local kids in the building. One girl, about 6 or 7, came dressed as a sunflower. She looked at me wide-eyed and asked, "Are you a mom?" I smiled softly. "No, just someone who used to take care of a lot of people." She tilted her head. "Do you miss them?" I didn't answer right away. But I finally said, "Sometimes. But I don't miss feeling small." She nodded like she understood. Then she grabbed her candy and ran off into the night, her laughter echoing in the hall. That evening I sat by my window, candle lit, music low, and I wrote again. Not a letter, not a text, just a journal entry for myself. They will reach out again. Maybe next week, maybe next year. They will say they miss me. They will cry. They will plead. But I must remember, missing someone doesn't mean they ever valued you. And guilt is not love. It's only the shadow cast by consequences. I closed the journal and felt something shift inside me. I had grieved them, had let go. But most of all, I had reclaimed my own name, Wanda Kessler. Not the provider, not the bank, not the one who always said yes. Just me. And for the first time in a long time, that felt like enough. Winter came again. This time I didn't dread it. In the past, the holidays meant spreadsheets, tight wallets, and tighter throats, preparing myself for the onslaught of needs masked as love. But now, in my new home with no one demanding, no one pretending, no one performing, the cold didn't bite. Felt like a blanket, a permission slip to be still. On the morning of December 1st, I found another envelope in the mailbox. No return name again. But I didn't need to wonder. The handwriting was stiff. Cheeky. My father. Inside was a single-page letter. His usual bluntness was gone. In its place, defeat. Wanda. I'm not good with words. Never was. But I saw what I did. All of it. You didn't leave us. We left you long before that dinner. We used you like a well. And when you ran dry, we blamed you for not overflowing. You were the only one who never asked for anything. And maybe that's why we took everything. No request, no promise, no manipulation, just the truth. I folded the letter and placed it with the others in the tin box, the last I'd allow myself to keep. Later that day I walked to the lake. It had frozen slightly along the edges, the wind brushing the surface like a hand smoothing fabric. I sat on my usual bench, not in grief, not in longing, but in clarity. It wasn't just that I had walked away. It was that I had survived it. That evening I got a text from an unknown number. No name, no intro, just a photo. Emma, now 9, sitting beside a small, crooked Christmas tree with a lopsided grin. She held a plate of pancakes, my pancakes. Chocolate chips in the shape of a heart. Beneath it, I tried to make them myself. I remembered. My hands trembled. Not with sorrow, but with something new, a flicker of warmth untouched by strings or guilt. I didn't reply, but I printed the photo and placed it on my fridge, not to rekindle a past, but to protect the only piece of it that had ever been real. By mid-December, I got invited to speak again, this time at a statewide conference for women reclaiming financial independence. A larger audience, brighter lights, but the same mission: to teach, to tell, to testify. When I stepped on that stage, I didn't feel like the woman who had been clapped out of her family. I felt like the woman who had finally clapped for herself. I shared my story, how I had given and given, and given until I mistook depletion for devotion. How I had stayed because I believed the narrative that family must be endured, even if it cost you everything. And how one Thanksgiving dinner, and a folder filled with receipts, screenshots, and a voice recording, had finally set me free. When I finished, the room was silent. Then came the applause. But this time, it wasn't the sound of exile. It was the sound of witness. Afterwards, a woman in the crowd approached me. Probably in her 50s. A quiet strength in her eyes. She said, "You didn't burn the bridge. They torched it and asked you to walk barefoot through the smoke." I laughed. I hadn't heard it put that way, but she was right. She added, "But look at you. You built a whole new road." That night I walked home under soft snowfall. No missed calls. No demands. Just footprints behind me and a quiet, open path ahead. Past the bakery. The lights were still on. I bought a slice of apple pie and took it home. No need to share it. No guilt about eating it alone. I had earned this peace. When I opened my door, the warmth inside welcomed me like a friend. And I whispered into the quiet. I don't miss who they were. I miss who I thought I had to be. I placed the pie on the table and pulled out my journal, the same one I had started the week I moved. I wrote, "I used to think forgiveness meant returning, but now I know. Forgiveness can be choosing to live well, without the ones who hurt you." Christmas came and went. Quiet. No chaos. No forced caroling. Just candles, blankets, a book I'd been meaning to read for months. And peace. The kind you only find when you stop begging for it from people who never intended to give it. On New Year's Eve, I got one final envelope. Smaller than the others. Inside was a folded note. The same childish handwriting. "I lit a candle. Like you. Miss you. But I understand now. Mom says you're not coming back. But I still hope you're happy. Love, Emma." I sat for a long time after reading it. Then I got up, walked to the kitchen and lit a candle. I whispered back, even though she couldn't hear me. "I am." 'Cause I was. I didn't just leave a house that didn't feel like home. Found one. Inside myself. And I'll never let anyone vote me out again. Wanda Kessler's story is more than just a tale of family betrayal. It's a lesson in courage, boundaries, and the quiet strength it takes to walk away from those who believe love should come with conditions. She didn't set fire to her past. She simply stopped carrying the torch for those who never warmed her in return. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say isn't "I forgive you." It's "I'm done." If this story touched something in you, share your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Wanda made the right choice? Have you ever had to walk away from someone who kept taking more than they gave? Subscribe to Revenge Echoes for more stories where silence is broken, truths are told, and justice finds its voice.